Hello everyone, Shroomraver here, and welcome back to Let's Make a Mini, the series where I'll be taking some of our favourite characters from the world of TV, movies, video games, comics, all that good stuff, and making them as playable TTRPG or D&D minifigures right here on Hero Forge. Yes, indeed. Now, the first thing we have to say, you're going to notice, if you've been watching the previous videos in this series, things are looking a little different, and my how they are different. Hero Forge has completely revamped their interface. Previously we had the very blank background, which was fine because it made getting these details very easy to do. What we have now is this beautiful new interface with this kind of really cool rocky setting with runes and everything. We've got stuff on the left hand side here and the additionals on the right. It's looking magnificent. There's been a huge update recently where this is the main part of it. The default clothes are a little different, that's new. There are some new items that have been put in as well, and some really cool aspects that I'm so excited to play with. It looks beautiful, I love it. I've had to make the screen window on the video just a little bit like that, a little bit shorter, just to fit everything on the page. But I think it looks absolutely fantastic. What I should also say, for people who are using Hero Forge, I believe that full colour is accessible to everyone now. I think that's been fully released. So if you were using this, I know there was a comment on a video not so long ago where someone was saying that they can't access the colour palette. That was because it was for beta Kickstarter backers, but now I believe that is in full force, so everyone can use it, which is absolutely grand. So, that's the preamble out of the way. What are we making today? Well, I figured that with the new updates to it, we should try something a little bit different, we should try something a little bit out there and a little bit more complicated. So we are going to be making Sly Cooper from the Sly Cooper video game series. This is an interesting one because we're not going to be using humanoid, we're going to have to use something a little bit custom, a little bit different from what we've been doing before. But once we get to the end, we're going to have to mess around with a few little items here and there, which aren't perfect, but they'll make it look good. We're going to have a pretty good summation of Sly Cooper. So without further ado, let's make a mini. So, we are going to be using not the human build here. Sly Cooper, I believe, is a raccoon, which we don't have as a playable race, quite obviously. It would be very weird if that was an option. What we do have is something that was added not too long ago. We have many different animal-based races, so if we scroll all the way down to the bottom here, it's going to take a little while to load. We've got stuff like raven folk, we've got elephant folk, which is cool. So lots of animal-based ones, but right down towards the bottom, past the mer people, past the snake people, past all this stuff, we have the fox humanoid, and that is what we're going to be using. And look, it has this wonderful decal coming up here when you choose an option. It's going to take a little while to load in, but as you can see, we now have this fox character, which is very cool indeed. I'm a huge fan. Now, we're going to have to do a little bit of changes here and there because the nature of the fox creatures, a lot of these are animal-based, anthropomorphic animal creatures. The focus is on the body parts and the limbs. So, for example, a creature with these kind of legs can't wear shoes. It's so that the feet can be on display, but we're going to change that up a little bit. So, if we go on the head, we don't want to do too much with this. We've got, as you can see, the vulpine features here. You can edit softness, I'm not really sure what that does. Oh, it makes it smiley and nice, but we don't want to do that. We're going to have him here. All the options are now over on the left. There's not a lot we want to do with this per se. See if I can find actually where... It's interesting, I'm not sure where the expression thing is. It might be on body. We'll have a look and see. It's not, so that's interesting. I want to what I want to do is edit the expression, but I'm finding it difficult to find where that is. I was hoping it would be at the bottom here. We'll see if we can play with the softness and make that do anything. That just makes it more smiley, which we don't want. What we want is for him to be snarky. But that's kind of the least concern here. I think that this will do quite well. You know, we don't have to mess around with the expression too much, just something I'd like to be able to do. But not too much we need to do with the body or the head or anything like that. So with this all done, what we are going to do, is just change the legs. We're going to make these humanoid. Now this seems like a strange thing to do, but it's basically so that we can put boots on him. That's all it really is. And with that out of the way and done with, now we can get up to the fun stuff, the clothing, the colours, the gear, all that good stuff, and make this into Sly Cooper. So, if we go on to clothing, now this is all over here. This is for Kickstarter backers. There's actually an early access tracksuit that we can do, which is quite fun. We're not going to be doing that. I'm not sure why we've started on legs. What we want to do is go to the head, where there's this new option here, which is a sort of strange diadem, whatever it's called. He wears a kind of messenger boy hat, one of those kind of flat caps, and funnily enough, that does exist on Hero Forge. We can get that. I'm going to have to find it here somewhere. Where are you? Here it is. The English flat cap. As you can see, that's going to go on his head. We actually want to check this option off. We don't want to hide the ears. As you'll see, they're going to kind of poke through the cap. Now, Sly Cooper, his ears come underneath the cap, but that's going to be okay. We're just going to have them poking through, and that's going to be absolutely fine. Now, in terms of the chest, he has this kind of open, loose shirt. Very simple to do here, because we have this option, which I think is going to be the best, the swashbuckler's tunic. That's exactly what we need. That's exactly what we need. Now, the legs become a bit more difficult because it's kind of less a shirt and more a kind of tunic thing he's got going on, which is difficult to do, but there is a very good way of getting this done, and I'm going to show you that right now. What would be nice would be to get just kind of sort of an open thing here and here, but what we can do is kind of cheat a little bit. What we're going to do is we're going to use the fur trimmed pants. Reason is, he's got the belt. We can make the legs his kind of regular skin colour because it's fur, and also this bit here can be fur too, and that can be more part of his body. It's going to work out in the end. It may not look exactly like him right now, but it is going to. Now, in terms of the feet, we want him wearing boots, which is why we changed those legs. So we're going to get a boot set that I think, looking at his picture on my left, we've used before. Down a bit more, down a bit more. I know what I'm looking for, and I'll know it when I see it. These ones. Tall boots, very simple. Lovely. That's exactly what we need. Not a problem there. And now the last thing is going to be the gloves. We do want him wearing gloves. He has kind of two-tone gloves. The main sort of hand of the glove is blue, and the cuff bit is yellow. Now, I think we've used this kind of thing before. Certainly when we were making Ash, we used a set of gloves that thematically don't fit, but when you colour them, they're going to look better. It's going to be the same with Sly Cooper. What we're looking for, I believe, is the mechanics gloves. So we're going to scroll on down and see if we can find them. I went past them. I went past them. I saw them. Where are you? There you are. The mechanics work gloves. So again, they don't exactly look the part, but they are going to when we colour them. Now, we are going to add in all the extraneous stuff later, because again, we want an open pose so that we can get the colour in. I am going to very quickly do the base. We're just going to go with a nice flagstone texture. We'll add items in later once again. So now that that's done, we can start getting onto the colour. So this is going to be a bit difficult because there's another reason why Sly Cooper is quite hard. He wears a face mask, which isn't present in Hero Forge. So what we're actually going to do is normally we'd use a sort of a base coat, as it were. We're not going to do that here. We're going to try and build him from scratch. So abandoning all of this, we're just going to go straight on to paints. We're going to build him from scratch. First things first, let's get some eyes in there. I believe we're just going to go with a straight up brown. Now some of these might take a while to load, you know, the interface is new. So we're just going to pop his brown eyes in, and that's lovely. So now we're going to get to his body, and we're going to be using blacks and greys here. First off, we want a nice regulation black for this area of the face. And I think looking at it, that's almost as much as we need black, apart from one bit, and that's going to be the tip of his tail. Because he's a raccoon, his tail is ringed, grey and black colouring. Now we can't do that, unfortunately, because the tail is just two-tone. So what we're going to have to do is get quite creative with the paint. And the paint we're going to use is probably this one, the Hermit Grey. Like, we could use the Wolfpack Grey, which will add a little bit of highlighting, but as you can see, it's a little bit too shiny for my liking. I don't want that. What I want is this Hermit Grey, which is just, it's still light in colour, but it doesn't look quite that shiny, which I wasn't a big fan of. So we're going to add in this grey. We're going to make his full body this colour, if we can. We'll do the ears as well, and we'll make the inside of the ears black. I think that'll work nicely. Yeah, that'll be fine. Now what we also want to do with this is not only colour his body, but also this area. This area is also going to be grey, because what we want to try and get is this idea that that is also a part of his body. Now what we're going to do at this juncture is start editing it. So if we go on to mix, we've done this before, giving colours different highlights. I'm going to go into the black one. We'll bring up this option, we'll take the mid black, we'll copy it, we'll go into Hermit Grey, we'll go on to the high one, because that should be the highlight option, and we'll paste that in. And as you can see, now we have a bit more of that black highlighting, which is what we want. So that's nice. In fact, what we're going to try and do, if we Control Z, we can see if it'll look better on like the low aspect. And actually it does. That's better. That's a lot better. We don't want to put it on the mid because that's like the bulk of the colour, which we want to be this grey. What I may do is actually just make that grey a little darker. That should be perfect. Looking at the tail, it's not bad. I'd like it a little... no, lower. This is fine-tuning work, but that I think is pretty decent. And I actually want to get the rest of the ear that colour. That'll be fine. Now if we go back to the paints. Now that we've got that, we can start seeing where we want that mix and where we want it to be a little more general. So if we go on Wizard Grey, for example, we can edit some more of the body. But I think the face is fine, and it's a little bit too light there. We could be adding this in. I think I'm going to make the pants that colour because it blends a little better. So with that kind of all said and done, now we can get on to the colouring. And the colouring is really quite simple looking at what I've got. It's basically just blue and gold. So we're going to look into that right now. Actual gold is probably the one. So the extremities of his clothing and the belt are going to be this colour. We're actually going to make the buckle the same colour. And I don't want that coming up. I've got a Malwarebytes thing coming up of all things. How dare it. That's fine. And now the cuffs of his gloves are going to go that colour as well. Literally the rest of his clothing is just going to be blue. So we want this perfect blue. Lovely. Absolutely fantastic. Let's get that in there. The gloves. This portion of the gloves as well wants to be blue. Okay. The hat is going to be blue. We've forgotten to do his nose, but we'll get onto that in a little bit. There's his blue hat, and finally we want his blue boots. Fully blue. That's the colour he wears. Let's get the bottom of the shoe. This is quite finicky, but we've managed to do it. And we'll get this at the back as well if we can. Ah, missed it. Get here, you. There we go. Let's do that bit first this time. Blue on the rest of the boot. Back. We'll get the bottom first, and then finally there. And that is his clothing done. Now what I'm going to do very quickly is just do the nose. There we go. They've got a specific colour for the snoot. Isn't that just delightful? And that is pretty much his colouring done. We're going to just finish off the base. We'll put our primer on. We'll get our sort of light coloured stone. And that is pretty much lovely. So now we can get on to his gear and the gear around the base. So here we go, gear, lovely. It's on familiars at the moment, which we don't want. You see the options are now up here. To me, I kind of hope that this gets this particular menu just gets tidied up a little bit. It's a little messy, but you know, we're still Hereford probably still working on kind of the overall effect of the interface. So while this is a little bit messier than it might be, I think it's fine for purpose. What we want is, what they do sometimes have is a new section, which I would quite like. They've actually got it, as you can see. They've got things organised in not only the kind of category of what it is, the short blade, the staffs, the pistols, the axes. I believe there's new heavy weapons, which is quite cool. I'll give you a quick look at that. Stuff like this, flamethrower, chainsaw, big heavy machine guns, gives us scope for maybe doing heavy from TF2 at some point. I'd quite like there to be a new segment, but they've also got it organised by theme: fantasy, modern, western, sci-fi. I quite like that. Helps you build a little bit more specifically. But we don't want that, we want to go on to staff. And actually what we want is a staff that looks very much like this. Sly Cooper has this kind of weird half staff, half sickle. We don't have exactly what we're looking for here, but this wooden staff is actually going to be very fit for purpose. We just need to make this metal as opposed to wood, which we can do. Now in his other hand, now I'm going to need to find this. It's probably under miscellaneous, because Sly Cooper's a thief, he's a burglar. Now I would love to have him holding a key, but the only keys in here are quite big, which we're not happy with, but they're also not big enough to make it into a keyblade, which is a shame. It means we can't do Kingdom Hearts as far as Sora is concerned. But what we can do is scroll on down and try and find something thievery related. And they do exist, and this is what I'm looking for. Quite simply, just a pouch. Just a nice money pouch that he can be holding, which is grand. So, looking at my reference, the face isn't exactly as I'd like it, but I think it'll all sort of come out in the wash quite nicely. We're going to add some stuff to the base. As you can see, the items are over here now. We do still have those A and B. This is quite fun. There's actually a fox familiar that they've added, along with cannonballs, which is really fun for me because it opens up a whole new world of anime stuff that I've wanted to do for ages. But now I just have an excuse to use cannonballs. But we're not looking for cannonballs, we're not looking for fox familiars, we're looking for thievery related things. And the main thing is going to be this. The coin clusters are perfect here. We're just going to throw them in there, and that is absolutely grand. In terms of item B, we don't want to overdo the coins, we just want to have something else that's thematic. So we're just going to find another money pouch, and there's a bigger sack that we can add as an item if I can find it. It's around here somewhere. I promise you it's around here somewhere. I may have gone past it. I have very likely gone past it, I have. It is definitely here somewhere. Yell if you see it. I won't be able to hear you, but yell if you see it. Come on, where are you? You're here somewhere, I know it, because I've used you before. Where is it? Come on. Don't tell me it's right at the top. It's literally right next to it. There we go, the sack. Beautiful. Alright, so with that done, now we can get on to colouring that in and getting a pose at the end. I have one in mind. But let's get some colour on these extraneous items. So, looking at it, we want the paints is what we want. We just want a nice dark leather for some of this. Usually I go with Ranger Brown, which is here, Ranger Hide. I mean, that's perfect. We don't really need to add too much. Come on, there we go. And we'll make the sack a slightly lighter colour. Maybe this. No. How about you? That will do. That will do. We'll get this tie being ever so slightly different, just to make it stand out. In fact, we're going to make that red. There is actually something else we need, because he has a little pouch at his side, and we can add that. So what I'm really quickly going to do is add that in. I almost forgot, but just on my picture I just noticed that it's there. Spell effects are interesting. I wonder what that could be. We're going to be exploring that at some point. It's a very fun thing. It's a secret tool that will help us later. But we're just going to add something in at the side. And it's going to be this little carrying case, which will appear on his side. And we are just going to make that a red leather pouch, which he does have, I believe. I say, I haven't actually played Sly Cooper, but my man Chaos plays it a lot. So let's go to paints. Let's get that red leather, which is here. I'm just going to make that tie red just to just makes it a little bit less standouty, which I want. And then we'll give him his little red pouch. Perfect. Now, the rest of his stuff. We need something that's actually a pretty decent colour. There's lots of different colour options on this particular item. There's various different positions for colour. We're actually going to make this mostly wooden for the wooden staff, and then what we're going to do is we'll focus on the metal. Now, we don't want it to be perfectly gold. We're going to save that for the money piles, but something like this Sunhelm Hero, which is a kind of muted gold, is going to play very nicely, as you can see, and that is a pretty good match. Now the money piles, they're going to be gold because they're money, and it very nicely works. There's a few gems worked in here, which is fine because we can just make them gems. Very nice indeed. We'll have a nice red one here. We'll have, let's go with green here, and a nice deep blue. Lovely. Very nice indeed. And that's pretty much all the colouring we're going to need. The only thing left to do is give him a pose, and I do have one in mind. Like, there's all these standing up ones. We want him to be crouching and sneaking, and there is a perfect pose quite far down the bottom, which is exactly what we're looking for, and that is this one, crouching advance. As you can see, it's exactly what we want. It's exactly what we want. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is going to be Sly Cooper pretty much finished up. So, let's take a little scoot around and see what we've got here. We had to use the fox body because he's a raccoon. We don't have that, but it gives us that kind of elongated snout. It gives us the big bushy tail. We changed the feet so that he can wear boots. They've clicked through a little bit, but that's fine. You know, with specific pose editing, we might be able to change that a little bit just by moving the torso a tad bit, but it's really, it's window dressing. We've got all of his accoutrements. His many successful burglaries are around him. We've got his little staff, which, you know, we could make this bit gold, but quite simply, it's knotted, it's wood. It's not going to look right. So we're not going to do that. We'll have him with a little bit of a longer shaft on his kind of sickle staff. This is as close as we're going to get to it realistically. The tail, we can't get it to be ringed, so we've gone with the next best thing, which is highlighted. We've highlighted some of those accents there. The black is quite obviously there. Moving around, the clothing is very Sly Cooper, all blues and yellows and furs. We've made the fur look more like his natural body, which is quite nice. We've got his little carrying case there. He's holding a sack, he's got another one next to him, and that is lovely. We also, there's accents around the eyes which we've left grey, which is what I want because it's as close as we're going to get to his actual sort of mask. One of the reasons what character I'd really like to make is Joker, for example, from Persona 5, but there is no mask there, so if I could get Hero Forge to add anything in thinking of that, it would be kind of a sort of fancy party mask or something, which could be used for a burglar or something of that ilk. But that is going to be Sly Cooper pretty much done and dusted. So, thank you all very much for watching. I do hope that you've enjoyed. Remember to check out Hero Forge. You'll find links to Hero Forge in the description. You can also see the address on the right hand side of your screen towards the bottom. As I say, they've added in this new interface. It is beautiful. I highly recommend using it. The colour palettes are now there for everyone to use. I'm not being sponsored by Hero Forge, I just love the site. So if you're looking to make minifigures for anything, Hero Forge is the site for me. It might be the one for you too. I highly recommend going and giving all these new features a go. I'm exploring it to its fullest extent. Also in the description you will find links to the inspiration behind this series, Tulok the Barbarian and his building character playlist. You'll also find links to both my Twitters. You can always catch me on Twitter, so if there are any characters you'd like to see me use, put them down in the comment section below, or indeed hit me up on Twitter. You can always catch me there, and I'm always looking for new ideas for characters to make. I know it's been a while since I've done one, but with the update I felt it was time to come back to it. So let me know characters you want to see me use, let me know what you think of this, and we'll get right back on it. But that's enough from me, I've rambled on far too long, so my final thank you to you all for watching, and I guess with that, I'll see you next time. Laters.